Microsoft swings a mean bat. You better believe it. And they are absolutely cooking right now. I know a lot of you are probably very interested in the things that are going on behind the scenes with Phil Spencer testifying, with Xbox testifying. We're getting a lot of information, things that we wouldn't be privy to otherwise. And I think this has been pretty interesting, to say the least. Now gamers have kind of the inside track, the inside story with what's going on. And to me, I thought this was pretty interesting stuff. And Microsoft literally has so much going on with this right now. Like, honestly, it's hard to believe all the interesting things that's coming out right now, and it's blowing my mind. It's honestly so interesting, and I usually wouldn't be interested in this kind of stuff, honestly. But yeah, this is pretty cool stuff. Now, for me, this is confirmed now. Phil Spencer was talking about the issue with Starfield and exclusivity. They're obviously talking to him on the stand, and he actually gave a very good, interesting idea about this, but a lot of people don't understand kind of what's going on and why they did it. So how big of a bat do you got to swing to do this? Phil Spencer says on the stand that he heard that he heard that Starfield was going to skip Xbox completely. Now, this was definitely in the rumor mill years ago, that Sony was buying up third-party exclusivity to cover for the PlayStation 5. They were going all in. This was obviously something that's very clear. You look at Final Fantasy VII Remake, Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2, Final Fantasy 16, KOTOR Remake, Silent Hill 2. They're definitely doing their best. Ghostwire Tokyo, Deathloop. So they tried to get the game exclusive to PlayStation 5. They wanted Starfield to skip Xbox completely. So what did Microsoft do? They bought ZeniMax. That's right. They bought the entire kit and caboodle. And they had to do it. Right? So one thing that I've kind of noticed from this entire deal, this entire thing with Phil Spencer and this court case, Phil Spencer has been very honest about what's going on. Right? And what I felt was pretty incredible was when he said this on the stand, and this sums it up. He says, every time we ship a game on PlayStation, Sony captures 30% of the revenue that we do on their platform, and then they use that money among other revenue that they have to do things that try to reduce Xbox's survival on the market. So this is basically what Sony is trying to do. Sony tried to keep them away from Starfield. They keep them away from they keep them away from the Final Fantasy games and numerous other games. Stuff like Stellar Blade was originally announced on Xbox as well. But I thought this was very interesting that Microsoft had to do this. Microsoft seems like they have to do these things to survive, right? And this is exactly why I think Microsoft needed to go out there and make sure that Xbox has these types of content and has this type of stuff that gamers need, because guess what? Sony isn't playing around. They are actively out there trying to absolutely end Xbox. They want Xbox to be over with, done with, finished, kaput. They don't care. They want Xbox gone. They want Xbox to be completely left out in the cold. And I think that's complete and utter nonsense, right? You can't be allowed to do that. You, as a company, you have to be able to allow other companies to compete. Sony is pretty much refusing to allow other companies to compete. They tried to get Starfield to skip Xbox completely. They withheld the dev kits to the PlayStation 5 so that Microsoft couldn't ship upgraded Minecraft versions. They honestly are just going all out. They actively pay other developers to skip Xbox. Think about that for a second. And people don't even realize that, but it's kind of crazy to think about. So now we see, hey, Microsoft had to buy this company to compete. We also know actively that, quite honestly, Activision demanded a bigger revenue share for Call of Duty for it to even be on the Xbox Series X and S. They threatened to not support Microsoft's newest console outright. right? And they did that. That's what Activision did. This all has to do with Sony. And people see this stuff and they go, oh, well, Starfield is exclusive to Xbox. That's bad. But they wouldn't have said anything if Starfield was exclusive to PlayStation 5, right? And here's the funny part. With the fact that Starfield's not on PlayStation 5, if it was, and if it was multiplat, it wouldn't be coming out this year. So that's something that we have to kind of look at from this kind of situation as well. Is there is bad considered from some people, but there's a lot of good as well. And this, I think, is one of the good things that we're seeing. And Microsoft has definitely kind of cooking the FTC so far. Now, obviously, there's still days left of this stuff, and we don't know exactly what's all going to be said, or if the FTC can pull something, a rabbit out of a hat or whatever. But this is definitely seeming to favor Microsoft. Microsoft is doing everything they can do to survive, because think about it. Imagine this generation where Xbox couldn't have Call of Duty, couldn't have Final Fantasy, couldn't have, Starfield, maybe even other games, right? We don't know. But it's kind of at that situation where we're seeing that Microsoft isn't getting the type of games that they should. People are skipping the platform. And, I think it's utterly ridiculous that they have to do that to survive. You know what I mean? You have to go out and buy a company to survive. It really just goes to show that they are in desperate need of picking up like these other types of studios and ventures to make a decent living in it, because Sony seems like they've got everything blocked off so utterly completely, and it's frustrating to say the least. To me, honestly, it's not one of the things that are going to keep popping up. Like, honestly, like people go, well, Microsoft buying everything. They're not buying everything. Do you know how many studios and companies and publishers there are in video games? It's crazy to think that Microsoft is buying everything. Look at someone like Tencent. They're actively out there seemingly buying everything. And so, yeah, when I see people kind of being very misleading by saying Microsoft is out there doing this, that, or the other thing, it's a little bit ridiculous, especially when you have absolutely, Microsoft needs AAA content. Microsoft needs content for Game Pass, for their gamers. To me, this is ridiculous that this is kind of coming out the way that this is. And Microsoft needs to keep fighting this. I feel like they are close to winning it. Today is doing them incredibly well. A lot of favors, in my opinion anyway, and there seems like that's the consensus. So hopefully they can keep pushing. But that's a huge flex to buy a company because you heard that that Sony was trying to get a game exclusive. And again, Starfield is that game. So let's just wait and see how great it is on Xbox. Let me know what you guys think. What do you think about this whole process? Rack 'em up. Crap Gamer out.